Well, Easter spending is expected to soar this year, despite a lot of economic uncertainty. President Trump's tariffs on imports have caused an economic shakeup, but that's not stopping shoppers. The National Retail Federation estimates consumers will shell out more than $23 billion this year, with people spending an average of $189 per person. So here with more on what the price tag is looking like, we have Director of the Professional Sales Center at YSU's Williamson College of Business, Mr. John Rossi. John, always a pleasure.
Yeah, good morning. Glad to be with you.
So we have a lot of things that go into the Easter baskets, the candy, the books, what have you. But would you say consumers are noticing a considerable price hike this time around?
Yes, I was fortunate enough to be out shopping yesterday, and it looked busy. It appeared like people were almost in a panic to buy things or to see what prices were. And I imagine that's going to continue for a while until we get some stability.
So we've seen this around other holidays. Why do you think people still decide to spend big despite whatever is going on in the economy? Is it just the holiday tradition that drives them, and even though there's all this uncertainty?
Well, clearly, the holiday is important, particularly for those families that have households with children. They don't want them to feel any different than they would normally, so that's a big part of it. The other part of it is a lot of families and households probably have taken a look at their budget and tried to figure out, well, if things increase by 10% or increase by 15%, what are we going to do, and how will our family budget be adjusted in order to accommodate that?
Okay, so what are some of the traditional holiday items where consumers are seeing the biggest increase, would you think?
Well, certainly chocolate. I've noticed that in the local chocolatiers that we have in our area, the prices have gone up quite dramatically, and that's because their input prices have gone up. So we'll probably see more of that as things move forward. Producer price inputs will increase, and those will likely be passed on to the consumer.
One of the big staples we see, though, are those Easter eggs. Could you talk to me about what those prices are looking like, and if we could see them fall anytime soon here?
It's unlikely we'll see any price fall.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Particularly on a Sunday, yeah. What's happened is the price level of everything has increased, and we noticed that, and we've talked about it a number of times since COVID. And the prices are continuing on a year-by-year basis to increase, and it's unlikely that they'll be falling unless we have some real dramatic economic shock.
And we are continuing to follow the tariff whiplash. A lot of back and forth, a lot of uncertainty surrounding that. This weekend, we're seeing exemptions on tech products. We even saw a pause on some of those for 90 days. So are consumers already seeing an impact from the tariffs? I mean, like what kind of impact will it really have, I'm wondering, in the next few months, like when it's time to go do the back to school shopping, things like that?
Sure. What's really happened is, and surprisingly so, consumers have really turned down in terms of their expectations and in terms of their sentiment. One of the things we follow is the Michigan Survey of Consumers, and that has dropped nearly 30% just over the month between March and April. Typically, on average, that's somewhere about 85%. It's now down to 50%. And that's pretty low for consumer sentiment and consumer expectations. So that's where I think that pullback and households thinking about their budget has started to hit home, and probably will continue throughout at least the second quarter, maybe into the summer.
Yeah, so from the tariffs to the market turmoil, what do you think that's doing to consumer confidence?
It's no different than business confidence. Okay. Businesses hate uncertainty, and the complexity of the economy now that we're global has a direct impact on businesses. Consumers are feeling the same sort of anxiety with regard to the complexity of their household budgets and their needs or requirements, both discretionary income and essentials. They're also feeling now that anxiety with regard to uncertainty, and that's very difficult for people to deal with, because they don't know whether to do something for fear that they're going to do something that's going to negatively impact their household budget or their income.
So then how can shoppers get the best bang for their buck out of all of this?
One of the things that is probably best is to take a look at your household budget and break it up into those categories. Typically it's housing, transportation, particularly gas, or if you're buying a new vehicle, what the interest rates are. If you're renting or owning a house, it could be utilities or maintenance. Some of the other issues are largely education, if they're paying for school or tuition, or having to put somebody in school in the fall. That's going to be an important part. Savings is another one. Their pension, their insurance cost, or their insurance expenses will be important as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for giving us your insight, John. We always really appreciate you, especially now during all this uncertainty.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks so much.